Hi, fourth graders. This week for writing, we are going to be learning about shampoo.
Miss Wheels, I know what shampoo is. It's that stuff in the shower that you put in your hair and you scrub it. And when you're done, your hair smells really good and it's all clean and pretty and you feel awesome. That's what shampoo is, right?
Yes, we are all familiar with the type of shampoo that you put in your hair in order to clean it, but that's not the kind of shampoo I'm talking about. Kind of shampoo I'm talking about is the figurative language kind of shampoo. What do you mean by that? I mean this. Each of these letters in the word shampoo stand for a different type of figurative language. And we use figurative language when we talk all the time and we don't even realize it. But if you're able to use it in your writing, it makes it so much stronger and so much more vivid and so much more relatable. That's what helps make your writing really, really strong. So we're going to focus on each of these elements. Today, we're going to be focusing on the S and the M. I have a really cool magic trick for you. Ready? Told you how magical and how cool is that. All right, so S stands for simile and the M stands for metaphor. The reason I chose to kind of jump from in the letters is because these two are, as they basically do the exact same thing, they just do it in a different way. So what similes and metaphors do is they compare two things. They like to compare one thing to another. Simile is a little bit different because when you are comparing two things, you compare them using the phrases like or as. Okay, if you are comparing something and you are able to say, so for example, he was as tall as a tower. That is comparing tower to whoever he is, and I'm using like or as. A metaphor would be a little bit different because it's basically saying you're comparing two things, but you're comparing them by saying that one thing is the other thing. So instead of saying he was as tall as a tower, you would say he is a tower, saying that he is something. That's the difference between the two. Okay, so I have two activities for us to do today for writing, so let's get started on the first one. So this is the worksheet that I sent home this week for you to work on identifying the difference between metaphors and similes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the top half, and then I'm going to read the bottom half to you guys. So it's titled Metaphors and Similes. It says, meet Tennyson the turtle. He enjoys using metaphors and similes when telling tales. A metaphor is a figure of speech, a phrase or a sentence by which a thing is spoken of as being that which it only resembles. Example, Tennyson's eyes are pitch black pebbles. A simile is a type of metaphor in which the comparison is made with the use of the word like or as. Example, Tennyson's eyes are like pitch black pebbles. That was reviewing what similes and metaphors are. Now this is the actual assignment, the actual activity that I want you to do. So we have a passage and it says, write the examples you find of each on the lines below the story. So you're going to be finding metaphors and similes and figuring out which one is which in this story. This is my home. A moss-covered rock is an emerald fortress. It provides shelter from the heavy springtime showers when the raindrops are like large iridescent pearls. My rock is neighbors with a weeping willow tree. Its branches are thick snakes. But to the children who come to swim from town, the willow is a majestic pirate ship. I peek my head between the daisies to watch the kids in brightly colored swimsuits plunge into the pool from the tips of the willow's branches. The water's surface is like a shattered mirror. A frenzy of ripples take over the pond, and the lily pads twirl like dancers who suddenly have the mad desire to switch partners. I fancy the idea of surfing the pond's wild waves one day. Now that we've read the story, we're going to practice finding metaphors and similes and being able to tell the difference. So I'm going to show you a good strategy on how to do that. So in the very first sentence is there's a metaphor, and so what we need to do is find the two things that are being compared. In this case, it is my home, a moss-covered rock, is being compared to
an emerald fortress. Those are the two things that are being compared to one another. Now that I found those two things, I'm going to, in a different color or just in general, I'm going to underline the word that is being used to compare the two. Because it's saying that one thing is another, that tells me that this is a metaphor. If it said my home, a moss-covered rock, is like an emerald fortress, that would be a simile. But in this circumstance, it's saying that one thing is the other, so that is a metaphor. So that is what I would like to see, and that is a good strategy on how to find the difference between the two.
All right, so now that we've had some practice in distinguishing the difference between a simile and a metaphor, last thing I want you to do is I want you to time yourself for 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, you're going to be writing down on a piece of paper as many similes and metaphors that you can think of comparing hair to something. So for an example is her hair was like a waterfall. And so that's comparing hair to a waterfall. And because I said her hair was like a waterfall, that makes it a simile. Another example is think of your senses. So the way things smell, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you taste. So another one would be, I haven't showered for days, and so my hair was as stinky as a skunk. So that's comparing hair to a skunk, and it's letting you know that it is smelly. And so similes and metaphors, again, are really awesome tools that you can use in your own writing to compare two different things. All right, so time yourself and send us a picture.